it's a big step forward, and this is going to be a leap into a very, very different kind of life, right? And I recall my college days. Of course, it's a long time ago, and my son keeps telling me, "Mama, those were very, very old days and stuff. Nothing has changed." I can tell you that lots of things haven't changed. They're still very similar. The apprehensions are the same. The quantum leap you make into a completely new world, it's very different as well. The expectations of organizations versus expectations of what the college had of you is going to be very different. Of course, this is a great preparatory ground for that, but we know that in the last couple of years, life has also changed a lot, right? So what I wanted to talk about today for you all was what are those big changes that have happened in the organizations in the last couple of years, which you need to sort of mentally prepare for, right, as you go forward into this new role. Let me recount a couple of changes that I think will be important for you to take back. The first thing is organizations have got very differently structured now, right? When you move into any organization at any level, you will see that it's a very, very matrixed organization, right? And it's not so linear as things used to be. And the larger the organization, the more matrixed it gets, right? So what does that mean? That means that a big part of the decision making on any critical aspect gets a little distributed, right? You have to get multiple people on board. You have to collaborate very intensively with a lot of people. So it may not, and the seesaw between the collaboration and the agility with which you might want to do things will always come in the way and challenge you, right? Because you're all very young. You've been very used to, I want to do this, I want to do it now kind of thing, right? And that may not always happen and the reason that won't happen is when it comes to larger organization decisions, it impacts so many people, right? It'll impact your clients, your customers, it'll impact so many of your colleagues and, the organization itself. So, which is why you will never see that happening overnight like that as, hey, I want to do this, let me do it now. So I think a very big virtue that you will need to develop and build on is patience, right? And be patient as you step into this role out in the outside world, and things will fall in place. But while you're patient, network, collaborate, get people's points of view, and do not be afraid. Be bold and go out there to say your point of view, right? Again, on that part, right? While you say your point of view, remember that your point of view must come from the view of knowledge, right? And not just because you want to be defiant or you just want to be different, you want to sound different. It is extremely important that you do your homework before discussions, before coming into any meetings, and have the full knowledge of what is the context, what is the challenge that they are working with, right? What has been tried so far and not worked. Very important, because you'll often see you come up with something and there'll be 5 people saying, that's been done before. Yeah, we've tried this, we've tried that, we've done this, we've done that. And then you'll stand there feeling, why am I even giving ideas? Everything seems to be thought through. But that is because people in the organization are continuously thinking through, right? So get a full knowledge of what's been tried, what's been tested, what's been thought through, and how can you make new ideas happen. Right. The second thing I want to talk about is, in this new world that you step into, there's going to be a lot of conflicts, right? Things will not be that easy, and I'm sure as the last few years of conflicts at home will prepare you very well. I'm sure you went through a lot of conflicts with your parents itself, with your ideas versus their, and I know it firsthand. I go through it with my son all the time, right? So it will happen. No one's wrong, no one's right, but people are at different planes all the time, right? And people are viewing things very differently, which is fine. I think what's important to understand is the conflict arises because people come in with diverse views, right? And that diversity is very important. How you deal with that diversity becomes really critical in how your diverse thinking gets accepted, right? Very simple. If I throw a paper pellet at you, you won't like it. You'll want to throw a paper pellet back at me. If I throw a flower at you, you'll throw a flower back at me, right? It's that simple logic, right? So when someone has an idea, rather than shooting it down, you actually build on the idea. And finally, you'll see in all of these organizations, somebody will lose track of whose idea was it in the first place. People don't remember that anymore, right? And it's very hard to own an idea in organizations anymore because they're so matrix. So no matter, you will have a great idea and then you'll sit there thinking, oh my God, they stole my idea, right? It'll often happen to you. This was my idea, but they stole it, right? You can't avoid that. It becomes nobody's idea after a point of time, and that's fine, right? So that brings me to the third thing, that apart from making space for that diversity of ideas and thinking and views and culture, right? You've got to also ensure that the environment encourages all of this all around you, right? And accept at some point also that, look, I mean, you should also learn to let go, right? Important to let go, saying at a point when you take your idea forward, for whatever reasons, you may have to pull back saying, hey, you know what, this idea doesn't work. Let's move on to the next one. Learning to let go perhaps is a life lesson I want to leave you with, right? Forget about where you're working in organizations and whatever. Just learning to let go of anything that is coming in the way of your fresh thinking, of your positivity, okay, of how, if it's holding you back as a string, you're not moving forward, right? Just let go and see what is out there for you. There's something new out there for you. There's something else waiting, which is why there are hurdles in this thing which is holding you back, right? Remember that there is hurdles there. It's not letting you go forward. It's sounding negative. Something's not working. It's because life is pushing you in a direction that you need to take a look at, which you're not doing, right? And that is a very important thing that you should hold very dear to your heart all the time. And whatever I'm telling you here is not just in organizations, right? In your future lives, in your future relationships, in your future bonds, everything, you will see that these principles apply, right? That's exactly how it will work. And I think the fourth thing I want to talk about is, and I often get asked this, right? Everybody thinks I've kind of mastered the art of work-life balance. I haven't. I don't know how many more times I tell people this, but they still don't believe me, right? I maybe talking and coming across as someone who's kind of, really mastered this whole life very well. I can balance everything. I can balance nothing, right? Every day for me, I wake up and I'm thinking, okay, something has happened. I had a day planned really well, right? But something happened. And like, I had my Friday planned really well. It was going to be an easy day, etc. And then a meeting came up, which I finished at 4 a.m. And then I had one more at 8 a.m, right? I'm really kind of sleepy right now, but these things will happen. The work-life balance today, in my opinion, you can't compartmentalize, right? You can't say, I'll do 1 hour of this and cut out from everything else. I'll do half an hour of this and push out everything else, right? The way I tend to do it is, I know I want to work out. But then when I can't do that because my days are full of calls, I will pick that 1 hour slot where I don't have to look at my computer screens. And I've set up a workout thing at home because of the lockdowns and I couldn't go out. So I've set it up here. So I just get onto my cross trainer, my treadmill. And while I'm on the call, I just do this, right? I try and make the most of that time I have. And I've initiated something called walk and talk with my colleagues, right? If we just need to catch up on something where I don't need to see any data on my computer, I will walk for those 20 minutes or half an hour and take that call, right? So you've got to know how to bring it all and integrate it together, right? There is no parallel tracks anymore where 9 to 5 I'll work, 5 to 7 I'll play sports, 7 to 10 I'll watch movies. Doesn't happen like that, right? Sometimes, in fact, if I want to connect with my colleagues, I actually do that over a movie as well. I just say, hey, let's celebrate. You guys have done really well. Let's watch a movie together, right? Find ways where you can blend both. That to me is the best way to do a work-life balance, right? And yes, sometimes you also need to get your mind off those things. Everybody needs a break. Everyone needs it, and you should take that break, okay? A break, in fact, in my organization, a break is not seen as as somebody who's kind of throwing off work, but a break. Those who don't take a break are not viewed as the best performers, right? It goes against you if you've not taken a break. We insist people must take a break, right? And I'm thinking that most of the progressive organizations would be thinkers like that. So do that, encourage people around you to do that so that you can come back with much more fresh thinking. And the last one I want to talk about is being fungible in an organization, right? Fungibility means you are not, I mean, it's good to be specialized, and some of you will be specializing in some areas, but you've also got to be fungible enough for the organization to be able to bring you into different roles, right? And in today's times, you can see how difficult it is it's been very difficult for many people to hold on to their roles, right? And to their jobs. It's been really tough, not because they were incompetent, but because many roles just disappeared. Many jobs just disappeared, right? With the work from home, and it'll come back, it'll bounce back somewhere. But the future will not be work from home or work from office. It'll be a blended model, right? We are already talking about complete flexibility, which means, I decide when I go to office and when I stay home and work. But I will go. I may be, looking at clocking in 24 hours in a week in the office. Which 24 hours I can decide, right? But that way it helps me to work from both places, manage my life better, etc., right? But I need to be fungible. Today, if the organization needs me to do a particular role where I'm needed, right? Because that role is critical, I'm needed. I should be able to fit myself into that well. But for that, starting now, start understanding the different departments, start understanding and roll up your sleeve and start doing different things in an organization. This is the best time to do that when you're entering and, at your early stages of your career. Be hungry for whatever you see, right? And if you're fearlessly curious about what's around you, I have put myself in situations where I've not understood anything about a particular role, right? Completely didn't know it. And I was put into that situation and said, you know what? I'll do it. I don't know it today. I will learn as much as I can, but whatever I don't know, I'll bring in an expert to do it for me, right? I don't have to always know everything myself, and I will not be able to do it. I know that, right? I mean, I know digital marketing, but do I know the technology that can enable that? I don't know the technology. I'm not a technologist, right? But I may know what I want out of my digital marketing strategy. And then I can pull in the experts from my tech team and say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm looking for. How can you help me? And they can come up with further ideas saying, go a step further, you can do this. Then it becomes nobody's idea. It's a joint idea all over again, right? So be fearless, go out there, put yourself in situations where you don't know what it is. Don't be afraid. Learning doesn't take very long, right? It's shattering that barrier in your mind that takes much longer. Right? Learning won't take you very long at all. Everything's available out there. It's in Google, it's everywhere in books, it's everywhere, right? So it doesn't take long. So that's the other thing, the last thing I wanted to leave you with. And I know it sounds a little preachy, but don't forget to remain positive, right? It's so important. Things are going to get more difficult, less difficult. I don't know. No one can predict. If you ask me, will it get easier? I don't know. I'm neither God nor the virus. I have no idea, right? But stay positive, no matter what, stay positive, okay? That's critical because your positivity will draw people's attention to you, and it will also help you to focus better in what you're trying to achieve. Because negativity will bring all the surrounding thoughts and clutter your mind, right? And then it kind of, that disturbed state will take you away from the path. Right? Come back. If you're feeling less positive, most important, surround yourself with mentors. Have multiple mentors, right? And mentors at different ages, right? You can be mentors to each other, reach out, because if you have a comfort level there, that's great. But have mentors who are experienced as well, right? Who are in certain positions in organizations, in your own organization. Learn who can be a good mentor for you, who can distance themselves and not be emotionally attached, right? And tell you and show you a mirror all the time. Okay? Ask people to show you a mirror. Don't be afraid of what you see in the mirror. Don't be afraid. Right? See the mirror and say, I'm doing this wrong. I don't have this right. I need to fix this. And always look at what you can fix for yourself rather than that person has to change, because you cannot control what's outside of you. Nothing you can control what's outside of you. You can only control what is you, right? So if you want things to change around you, change yourself and change the way you respond to the situation. That's it, right? Yeah, I don't know how much time I have to spend with all of you, but these were some of the key things that I have learned over the years, and I wanted to share. And I'm today in the organization as well. When I'm coaching people, I tell them many of these things in one way or the other. So I just shared all of these thoughts. Shoot some questions at me. Ask me some stuff, whatever you want, whatever doubts you have in your mind.
Ma'am, hi, my name is Unmesh. So previously I've been working in public relations. Now I want to shift my career to marketing communications. It's a whole different thing for me. What I have noticed is one thing about managing crisis, and I want to know how do you deal in a crisis situation? What's your first reaction to it? For me, my mentors have told me just be patient all the time. Over the years, you know how PR works and clients, shoot out your mails, and crisis might be there all the time, maybe 7 days a week. So being patient is something I'm learning day wise, but also in future, when you hold a strong position, let's say you turn into a manager, you go up the ladder by becoming an account director. How do you manage people and crisis is what I want to know.
So, Unmesh, crisis comes daily, okay? And as you move up higher, it's a cumulative crisis that comes to you, right? As escalations, the more serious it gets, will keep coming further up the chain, right? So it will keep happening. So you have to do three things on crisis. You've cracked the first one, be patient, definitely, right? Um, don't internalize it and personalize it to yourself. Remember when somebody sends a mail to you and it's nasty, sometimes people cross that line, right? They don't know whether they need to be professional with you or they just pour out their angst on you. Then they may be having some issues at home and they pour it all out on Unmesh, right? So just be patient. Don't react to anything that comes your way as a personal targeting. It's not, right? You happen to be the face of the organization, it'll come to you, right? Never respond immediately, ever, to something like that. Hold back the response, right? Because that immediate reaction is what the other party is looking for to catch you off guard. And you're not thinking either. Give it some time. Just respond saying, got this message, looking into it, will definitely revert with a solution. That's all. Standard message, right? Then you think it through. At least that person knows you're not ignoring, right? Clients need to feel heard, okay? And a very big lesson in PR and marketing and media is clients want to tell you, hear me out. I've had one of my best clients who's a very close friend now. Initially, we had a lot of conflicts, right? And then we sat down together and I told him, I said, why are we having these conflicts? What is the problem, right? He said, you don't hear me out. I said, but I do. I'm trying to give you a solution. He said, I don't want a solution. I want you to hear me out. See, that is when I understood that when the person is coming to me with a problem, I'm trying to throw a solution right there. The person is not asking for that. The person is just saying, hear me out. Go back, think about solution, but don't tell me the solution now. Today, just hear me out, right? That's the important lesson. Keep that in mind. So patience, responding in a more mature manner, hold back your solutions, go back later. Even if you know the answer at that moment, don't give it. Go back later so the client feels, oh, this person went back, discussed, thought it out, I am important. All right. And the third thing is see it as everything is transactional in this world, right? One of my mentors told me this, Ranjan Kapoor, who's no more, a big name in WPP and the advertising world. He's been one of my biggest mentors. And he would always tell me, Charu, everything in life is transactional. And that one thing really changed me in many ways, right? In not taking things personally, looking at a situation as a situation that I need to deal with, and going back with solutions at the right time. The last thing, Umesh, is best practices. You must learn from your past mistakes, right? Make new ones. But you can't be in a situation where the client is constantly coming to you with the same problems, right? Let's take PR, for example. Suppose a press release is being sent out, okay? And the client clearly has said in a previous issue you may have had that, look, I do not want my name in that press release. Suppose I'm making it up. Has made it very clear, and this was an escalation. The client's name went there, and the client didn't want to be named, blah, blah, blah. Again, you do the same thing. Now, that is not acceptable, right? We must have a system in place which takes care of that quality check when one escalation happens or one problem happens, right? We can make new ones, but not the same ones. We must immediately put a measure in place to control that problem. So that's how you can deal with it.
Got it, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, I had a question too. Can I ask?
Of course.
So, ma'am, like I was reading this book called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin. And I do hear a lot of podcasts because like he's this positive wellness coach. So I read this line which really hit me. It said we've encouraged a culture of soft, weak, and delicate people who quit on their aspirations the moment the smallest obstacle shows up. And I could actually relate with it because as I feel like I'm going ahead in terms of my career or anything, I can see I'm often surrounded by toxic people who end up saying like really nasty things about me. And when it comes up, like when it comes, somebody comes and tells you, it just makes you feel really bad. And somewhere you stop trying. So,
Mm.
like, how to deal with all this? Like, how to deal with toxic peers?
Ooh, hmm. Uh, Toxic peers will be there, right? Um, I don't know how many of you deep dive into psychology. It's a good idea to pick up some elements of psychology in your learning. Okay. That helps you to understand why people do and say the things they do and say. Right. Um, if somebody is being very toxic towards you from the first day, from day one, right? And word go, you just met the person's being toxic towards you. It's not about you. It's about an insecurity they are probably harboring within themselves, right? Maybe they say you see you as a threat, right? Um, Maybe they are hurt in within the organization because of somebody having put toxicity into them, into their relationship with them, right? And everything becomes a reflection of all of that, right? And if that's happening, sit back and think about two or three things, right? Again, like I said, can you change that person? Maybe. Maybe sometimes you can change that person. Then you can think about how can I change that person? What could be causing it? No change happens unless you actually understand why is this happening. And you have to, for everything in psychology, you have to go to 3 to 4 levels of why. Okay, let's have a situation that you and I are those colleagues, and I'm being toxic towards you, right, Pratika? Possible? And
Does it really look like seeing your cheerful aura? But okay, let me imagine.
really, yeah, imagine this horrible situation. I'm being very toxic towards you. I've just met you, and I go, yeah. So you've joined this team. Do you have the skills? What do you bring to the table? Do you know this business at all? That's what I'm saying to you, right? Think about why is that person saying it, right? Person wants to feel superior, maybe to you, to say, I'm the expert, you're not the expert, I'm the boss, you're not the boss, right? You can have two ways to respond to it. You actually say, yeah, of course I know what I'm talking about. Or you respond with a bit of humility to say, hey, I have some experience around it, but I'd be really looking forward to learning from you. Right? There's always two, and then you've just made me feel good about myself because I'm not feeling good about myself. That's why I'm not making you feel good about yourself. Simple logic. If I'm happy, I'll make you feel happy. If I'm miserable, I'll make you feel miserable. Right?
So, like, your inner reflection is the way you behave with the
It
people.
is. It is.
Correct.
And you know what always helps in these toxic relationships is you take on a little bit of humility. Nothing hurts with that. It's okay. Let's not have egos anywhere. It doesn't help anyone. And the second thing is become a listener, right? When you become a listener, everybody wants someone who can listen to them. Everyone, I can tell you, wants that, right? And if you become a listener to that person, that changes the equation. Okay. But there could be some times when a toxic relationship will just not go away, right? You give it a good try. You do what it takes for you to do it. Sometimes it won't go away and you have to step away from it. You can't live all your life with that toxicity, okay? You have to step away from toxic relationships, professional and personal lives. Give it your best shot. Make it happen. It doesn't happen. You've got to step away, okay? Um, and I think if it is happening too often to you, sorry, there's a call coming through. If it's happening too often to you, then start reflecting on yourself as well. That multiple people are responding to me in the same way. Could I be doing or saying something wrong? Right? And how can I change that? How can I correct that? That's it.
Thank you. It was helpful.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah?
Like, based on current situation, like, ma'am, how do we handle short deadlines without panicking? Because that's the most appropriate thing right now.
Yeah, well, this is where some of your short deadlines will come. So you have to set up a system. And which field are you in? Are you working right now? Were you working before that? Or
I used to work, but now I'm just learning like education.
okay, so you will go back into your work life there, right? Was this an ad agency or something that you were in? And
Digital marketing agency.
sorry,
Digital marketing agency.
digital marketing agency. Oh, okay. Which one was that, Shreya?
It was a small startup named Pixelated X.
Oh, okay. So if it is happening continuously, there is a system issue out here somewhere, right? The organization is not staffed right to take on so much, right? But if there will be times, short deadlines, there will be urgencies, and typically clients will come and say, I want this, and they will come at 6 o'clock to tell you, I want this by 10 o'clock or by tomorrow morning, right? So you have to work through the night. And I do feel that many people are disrespectful when they do that. And I have seen some people do it deliberately also, right? There are people who've done it deliberately. In my career, I've seen that, right? That you will be given that task to do at 7 o'clock in the evening. And I want it done, right? And you need to be able to recognize that, right? And set your boundaries. You have to set your boundaries as well, okay? And there could be some times when it does happen and you accommodate. Like I said, this thing came up very urgently for me and I had to do this call from 1 to 4 in the morning, right? And I accommodated it. But if that keeps happening regularly, which was happening, I already told my people in the US that, look, sorry, this is past midnight for us in India, and my team can't do this night after night. Can you please advance it a little bit so we'd have a more, a right fit to the time for all of us? So you have to negotiate and talk. You have to learn to negotiate, not react. There is a difference between reacting and negotiating, right? So if you find this is happening with you very often, you actually go and say, hey, you know what? I'm loving my job. You start with the positivity. When you start with a complaint, it becomes toxic. Right?
Correct.
You start with a conversation with the positivity, saying, you know what, I'm just loving my job, right? And it's very exciting for me. I've learned so much, etc. However, in the last so many days, I've been getting too many rush jobs, and that means that maybe I feel, see, there are two ways to say it. I don't want to do these late night jobs anymore. Or maybe I feel that, if I didn't do this continuously, I'll be far more productive and I will have more ideation time and bring a lot more to the table. I just changed the way I said it. I basically said the same thing, that, you know what, go to hell, I don't want to do it. But I didn't say it that way, right? Because your purpose should be to get what you want. What do you want out of this? You want your supervisor to understand that you're under pressure. You want your supervisor to understand you love this job. You want your supervisor to understand you're a good worker and you need to be, you need to be looked after. So first, before a conversation, think about what do you want out of this conversation. Think about the 5 sentences you will exchange. You've got to plan this. You can't just walk into somebody's room and say, I don't want to do this because you've been giving me jobs night after night. I can't be staying up here late every day like this. They'll say, okay, find some other job.
Careful use of words.
And think through 5 sentences of exchange that you're going to have with them. I'll say this, what will be the response? What will I say to that? What will he say to that? Do that in your mind and then go.
Yes. Got
Yeah?
it. Thank you.
Want to talk about having resilience and over the time need to practice it and build it. How do you personally do it, and is there any specific way to do it?
Well, resilience, you should always be resilient. Yeah, always be resilient. You have to just tell yourself that I have to be resilient. I am resilient. That's it. There's no other way to do it. You just tell yourself I'm resilient. I will bounce back. You might need a couple of days for that sometimes, right? You might need a few hours for that sometimes. And we all go through that. I go through that too, right? But I know at the end, I go through it knowing I'll bounce back at the end of it. I don't go through it thinking I'm just going to sulk and I don't know when I'll get out of it. I give myself a time. I'm like, okay, if I want to sulk, I'll sulk till this evening. And tomorrow morning when I wake up, I know I'll wake up fine. You have that. I mean, there's no other way to be resilient, right? But some things that can actually help is, I read a lot, right? I mean, reading helps me to be very resilient and deep dive into things in another world, which takes me away from my stress, right? So I do that a lot. And sometimes when I'm really down, then I read Garfield. That really helps me a lot, right? The Garfield is always putting a smile on my face. And I read nonfiction. I read a lot of literature, whatever interests you, right? I love music, and I'm actually an animal rescuer. So I spend a lot of my time rescuing animals, and that's a huge stress buster for me. Huge. In fact, just yesterday, allow me to show you. Can you see my camera? Can you see my little puppy there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's her.
Ma'am,
And
could you zoom in?
I'll try. I have so many at home. I'll show you this one. One sec. Kishmish. Hey, baby. Oh, puppy. Hey, baby.
So cute.
And she's just 4 months old, approximately. And I found her on the street. She was hit by a bike, I think, very hard. So she fractured her leg. And if I'd left her on the road and she wasn't able to walk and she couldn't eat and she had swallowed some stones, I think she was hurting and howling. She's with her mother on the street, but I brought her home and I'm treating her and looking after her. So she should be good to go back, but I'm going to try and get someone to adopt her, right? These things, and I have at any point in time about 7, 8 such rescued puppies in the house, and then I give them up for adoption. I look after them, and some of them, if they don't get adopted, they stay with me. And I have 2 such. One is old; he's blind. He's about 11 years old, but he's fantastic. I found him when he was on the streets when he was about 11 kilos. That's it. And today he's 24 kilos, and he's beautiful looking. Beautiful. Everybody thinks he's one of the highest breeds. And he's just a streetie. And I have another one that looks just like him, but much bigger now, who's lying on the street, again, injured and all that. He's been with me for the last 8 months, and I'm not giving him away. So I have a lot of adopted babies here, and I look after lots of streeties around the city. almost about 400 that I sponsor 200, I check on them, and 200 that I personally go and feed every morning for 3 hours. So no time for stress, no time for unhappiness. Do things where you're not left with too much time to be unhappy, right?
Got it, man. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a wonderful session, and we all enjoyed every minute of it. And I am sure, like, at least I would now tackle stress and be at peace. So thank you and have a nice day.
Good, and I hope you're all very, very successful. Remember not to measure success by the position you get in an organization or by the money, right? Measure it against your dreams, and you'll be very happy and successful.